Marcus McMaryon's with me. And for those of you that don't know, Marcus was is an all-star football player from here in good old Dinuba. Graduated high school here, went on to college, played. Did you play at Oregon?
Yeah, so I was at Oregon State for 3 years. I had redshirted my first year, and then my freshman, sophomore year, I played a bit. And we started about the second half of both of those seasons, started those and transferred back home to Fresno.
Okay. So what went into that whole transfer thing? I mean, you were at Oregon. Was it just not meshing, or?
Yeah, so it was kind of a different situation to whereas the coach and coaching staff that I originally committed to, kind of the reason I was going there, Coach Riley, really down-to-earth guy, really genuine, knew my mom by her first name, was asking me how Chelsea was doing at the time, how my sister was doing, just really down-to-earth guy, and he actually ended up leaving after my first year there. So it was kind of just a bumpy road since then, and I was like, hey, man, I know God probably called me here for a reason. I'm going to stick it out, fight it out. And just one thing led to another, and it kind of came to the point where I was just ready to kind of come home and look for a different venture.
Yeah. So how did Fresno State open up out of that?
Yeah, so I was actually kind of to my surprise. I'm thinking I kind of have the small town kind of mentality a little bit to an extent, I guess. I'm like, oh, I'm just a small town kid. I played a little bit here at Oregon State, a couple big games and stuff like that, but I'm not going to get a ton of exposure. And kind of the University of Texas, Iowa, all these schools were reaching out and saying, hey, we're looking for a grad transfer quarterback. And then Fresno State kind of came into the mix as well with Coach Tedford, and it's hard to say no to Coach Tedford, which is you kind of look at his history of quarterbacks. He's kind of coached Trent Dilfer, Aaron Rodgers, all these guys, and it's like, man, this guy's like basically a quarterback guru. It'd be a huge blessing and an advantage just to play under him and learn from him and pick his brain.
So they reached out to you?
Yeah, so it was kind of a weird period when I was transferring. It was kind of like a dead period to where you technically can't contact them. So it was kind of like Coach Sharton was doing a lot for me at the time. So
Gotcha.
I'm super thankful for Coach Sharton as far as he was kind of the middleman between a lot of things as far as contact, because I couldn't directly reach out to universities. So there's a lot of kind of a village of people that helped me get to where I ended up.
Yeah. So what year did you graduate Dinuba?
So I graduated in 2014.
Okay.
Yep.
And off screen, we've got my son, Adam. You guys went to high school together?
I think we just missed each other. Did we go to
school? Yeah, I graduated in 2012.
Yeah, so maybe for 1 year, yeah, because
Okay.
You're in Chelsea's class, right?
Yeah.
Yep, so
Okay.
for 1 year.
Okay.
Yep.
And so speaking of Chelsea, you graduate high school, you go on to college, you got your degree in Oregon, and then come back and you're at Fresno. And did you and Chelsea date all the way through all that?
Yeah, we did. We stayed strong, stayed together the whole time when definitely it was a lot more difficult when I was at Oregon State.
No doubt.
A lot of flights, a lot of mileages. I know she's taken tons of flights and driving, put a lot of miles on her car. So it's definitely, we made it work, and it was 100 times easier definitely when I got back to Fresno State.
Okay. So then you guys got married, a little over a year ago, something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, we just had our 1 year anniversary, and it's kind of at the peak of COVID, actually. We were planning this big, extravagant, 400-person wedding, and it ended up
that didn't work out right.
It didn't quite work out. So it ended up being about 12 people there in total, including the videographers and stuff. It was her immediate family, my immediate family, but we loved it. It was just a lot more intimate,
Sure.
And I've talked to buddies who've had big weddings before, and sometimes they say you're just getting pulled in so many different directions. It's kind of hard to focus on the moment. So it was nice. I enjoyed it a lot, just being able to kind of just be the people we really cared about were there. And obviously people were calling us and phoning in and stuff, so it was nice too.
So today, July the 2nd, is my wife and I's 38th wedding anniversary.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
38 years ago. So you're taking me back. We had no clue what we were getting
right
into. But it's awesome. Love marriage, love family, love all that represents in the unit. I think America's only as strong as the family is,
Yeah.
And so congratulations on your wedding, and then
Thank you.
now you've got a newborn. Little one.
Yeah, little Malachi Carver. Yeah, so I'm excited. And he's just 4 months this past week, and it just feels like he was just born yesterday. And I mean, I'm sure you could attest to it as well. I mean, he's only 4 months, and I feel like it's already going by. It's like, hey, man, slow down. Before I know it, he's going to be crawling and then walking and then talking and
asking for the keys to the car.
Asking for the keys to the car. It's going to go fast. I'm sure.
Yeah, we had 3 and all boys. And my poor wife, man, all those men in the house.
Right.
She always says, I raised 4 boys, 3 I gave birth to, and then my husband. Anyway, well, that's awesome. And so after Fresno State, when you graduated out of there, what happened with football?
Yeah, so kind of after Fresno State, trying to rewind. So I did rookie minicamp with the Raiders, so I spent about a week or so there with the Raiders, and then I did a training camp for a couple weeks with the Saints. I was out in New Orleans and enjoyed that, had a good time, and I really kind of left on good terms there when they ended up letting me go. They kind of said, like, man, you went above and beyond what we thought you were going to do, and they said they just weren't in a spot where they needed another quarterback, to where you kind of get to that level. It's more of it's very business oriented. I mean, if you have Drew Brees, who's obviously a Hall of Famer, and then you had Teddy Bridgewater, who was there at the time when I was there, and you had Taysom Hill. You had 3 kind of premier quarterbacks on a team. And it's like, we don't really need a young guy who's still trying to prove himself. So just didn't really work out in my favor, and then ended up signing with the CFL a couple months after that. So I was actually signed with the Calgary Stampeders for about 2 years.
Okay, so what happened there? Because just like in the U.S., I guess Canada's still shut down from COVID, right?
Yeah, so they actually, that was kind of a roller coaster ride in itself. So I had signed there, and I was supposed to take off right after I left the Saints, and then COVID, it was kind of at its peak, and that was just kind of a whole emotional roller coaster, just because it wasn't so much the fact that COVID, it was just more of kind of mentally taxing and draining, that it was, hey, you're going to leave on Saturday. No, you're going to leave next Saturday. No, you're going to leave next Saturday. So you're kind of riding this emotional roller coaster, trying to adjust and you're getting excited, and then you kind of sit down. You get excited, and then you sit down. So that was a long time coming for me.
Yeah. So through that process, you've kind of made some shifts now, and I noticed you had a post up just a few days ago, or a couple days ago, whatever it was. And why don't you share a little bit about what's going on now?
Yeah, definitely. So I kind of just ended up making the decision after kind of just being an emotional roller coaster the past 2 years, and kind of having been out of football, really kind of having it put on pause. It just kind of really came to my attention that, just the people who have been supporting me in the past, 25 years really, or 20 plus years I've been playing football. They've really all put their lives on pause, whether I had football games or traveling or whatever the case was. And just kind of realizing for me that there's a lot more to football, and I'm super thankful for everything that the game has done for me. But my eyes just really kind of having it momentarily taken away from me, just kind of made me realize there's a lot more, and I could impact a lot more people, I feel like, if I kind of temporarily step away from football for now and just kind of focus on, obviously, my new family, my wife, and just kind of really pouring myself into other directions right now.
Yeah, do you feel that being a new dad had anything to do with that decision?
Yeah, 100%. And I took that into consideration. Just having Malachi, just to kind of uproot my family and say, hey, we're going to move across the country, and now he's just going to have to find new doctors and new stuff. And so we were kind of playing with that, to where my family was going to stay here, and then kind of came up, well, I wasn't really going to have a decision because Canada's still kind of very strict with their regulations. So I know, as of right now, at least, all the players up there, they're not going to be able to see their families for about 6 months, and that'd be terrible. Spending every day with Malachi the past 4 months, basically, I feel like he's changing every day. It's like I couldn't imagine not seeing him for 6 months and seeing him when I get back, like, hey, I'm your dad. Yeah, I hope you remember me.
Was that super hard to make that decision? Like you said, 25 years of nonstop, like, grinding for football, and you have this newborn, and it's like, do I continue what has been such a passion in my life for, since day one, and go along for this ride, or do I sit here and, put those dreams aside and be here with my newborn? Like, was that one of the more difficult decisions?
Yeah, 100%. I would definitely put it up there with a top 5 most difficult decision I've probably made, just because I've given so much to football, and it's been, like I said, it's really been kind of almost the center of my life as far as everything revolved around it. And lots and lots of long conversations with, Coach Tedford was just huge for me. I really know the way to put it. A couple times we'd be on the phone call just talking for like an hour and a half, just kind of going back and forth. And people that are really close in my circle, I'd have days where I was very over football and I was ready to kind of just call it quits, but then I'd go throw the ball with one of my receivers who was in town, and then just emotions pick right back up. Right back in it, oh man, I can't wait to pick this back up. I love this game. So, and then just kind of came to the point that I don't think you're really ever going to be fully over it. And I try to mention that in my post when I said it's when something's been a part of you and just kind of ingrained in your life for that long, I think it just really becomes who you are and it's your identity. And I know you don't want to get caught up in it, but it's definitely, football is 100% molded me into the person I am, whether that comes to just my daily disciplines and my structure I have in my life and just the way I go about things. So it's been good. It's a tough decision, but I think right now, like I said, it was more just, I feel like football was almost confining me to my level of influence, I guess you could say, as far as how many people I could touch.
Yeah. I know last year, just hearing from a lot of the on posts and different things from like baseball players last summer, and when they were playing, here they are in this season where there's no fans in the stands. Everything was weird. Everything was different. But the hardest thing for them was being isolated from even their teammates and their families. They couldn't be around their family at all, and it's like, man, I don't know how guys go through months and months. I know they do it, and obviously when you're at that level and you're being paid millions of dollars and you've got this contract, you go for it. But I can only imagine with a new family, just getting familiar and comfortable in the flow of being a dad and a husband and everything. I can only imagine what that must have been like to think about being separated from him for that time. So
yeah, it was definitely one of those deciding factors. And I feel like humans at our core, we're social creatures. Whether you think you're outgoing person or introvert, we all need some kind of contact. And I know that's why my first year signed in Calgary, why nothing ended up falling through, because there were just so many kind of details they were trying to figure out as far as are we going to be able to leave they were going to have us all in a hotel, and it's like, okay, well, are we going to be able to leave the hotel? And they're saying, no, you're going to have to stay in the hotel the whole time. And it's like, well, we're going to have Wi-Fi for all of us. And guys, jokingly, guys play video games and stuff. It's like, well, I have to do something to entertain myself. And some guys they're like, oh, we're going to give you guys food, free meals. It's like, well, some guys are vegan or some guys are allergic. So there's just so many kind of fine details to figure out that it never actually ended up falling through for that. Really the past 2 seasons.
Wow. So football, you're stepping back. I love the way you put it. Football, in essence, football will always be a part of your life, but for now, at least, not on the field. So what's that look like? What are you going to be doing for a living, and where are you headed?
Yeah, so recently I've been working with Carly. I've been doing quarterback training out in Bakersfield, and I've been doing it somewhat out here as well, as far as just kind of helping quarterbacks and doing that. I'm actually kind of working on putting together an academy. I want to call it Why Not You Academy, and that's kind of off on another kind of tangent. We could talk on about that if you want to, but so kind of starting Why Not You Academy. I'm actually working with one of my buddies who's he has a recruiting service, basically to help kids that are going under recruited, kind of like diamond in the rough kids, or kids who are really just want to push and get to the next level. Obviously, it's not really tailored towards kids who are 5-star recruits and going to Alabama, but kind of kids who just want to find a home somewhere, whether it's a small Division I, a small D2 school. But, to a lot of kids, you put them on a partial scholarship that's, $40,000-$50,000 a year. That's a huge help financially.
Sure.
Yeah, so.
Sure. So talk to me about that. Why that title, that name?
Yeah, so Why Not You Academy is kind of, so it's always been big in my life. So I very vividly remember going to a Nike training camp, actually with another Dinuba alumni. Michael Wright was there with me. I was out in Oakland. We went to a camp, and there was one of the guest speakers was there. He was talking to us. There's probably about, I don't know, 800 kids there, and he's talking to all of us, and he's like, hey, how many of you guys want to go Division I and be on scholarship? And, everyone's excited. Oh, I want to go. Everyone raises their hands. We're all excited. And I forget the numbers exactly, but say if there's 1,000 kids at the camp, he says, well, according to the statistics, only about 4 or 5 of you will actually get a Division I scholarship. And then you could kind of just see, like, just
all
everyone dropped,
yeah,
all the air out of the room just left, and everyone kind of just like a gut punch for everyone. And I don't know what came above me, but I just remember standing there, and I kind of almost like saw everyone drop, and I almost kind of puffed my chest up, my little skinny 130-pound chest that I had at the time. But I kind of puffed up, and I just kind of thought to myself, like, why not me? Like, why can't I be that person?
Why can't I be one of those 4?
Yeah, why can't I be one of those 4? So I kind of saw the air in the room kind of deflate, but then I kind of puffed up and kind of thought, well, why not me? Like, I don't see why I can't be one of those kids. So that's just been a huge saying for me in my life, and just like Why Not You Academy, just kind of really preaching that to the kids, and just really having someone to kind of believe in them and be like, hey, I mean, if you want it, I mean, success is not an attractive, sexy road that people want to go down, but and really just kind of letting kids know, I mean, success it's tough, it's boring, it's monotonous, it's just doing stuff over and over and over, and not getting caught in just kind of the boredom of things, and just waking up every day and going to work out, doing it all over again.
Yeah, I think a lot of young guys, they see all the pros, or they see college, and they see, all the interviews and all the stuff and the performance on the field. But I don't know that they have a clue of everything that goes into it. I mean,
Right.
As a quarterback, you're talking about reading defenses, knowing the offense. I don't know all that goes into it, but, my thing was more baseball, but still.
Yeah.
I mean, you just watch the signals, you watch how this guy's going to throw and where they're going to go with that. And there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So I'm always curious, Marcus, on average, how many plays did you have to have memorized at any given time?
Oh man, plays. So just kind of generally speak. So we'd go into a game. So say we're playing, I don't know, Boise State. We had game planned. As always, they try to minimize it to 80 plays, 85 plays that we.
Yeah, no, I'm out. I can't. That's crazy.
Yeah, so they'd minimize
no
it
way.
to 85, and every time Tedford was one of the greatest coaches I've ever played for. He would tell you this, so I could say it. He's very paranoid, though, so he's ready for every single situation, anything that could possibly happen. Practice was always 10 times harder than the game was, which I'm super thankful for. But he was just very on edge all the time as far as preparing, and we very rarely kept it under 85 plays, so it always went over. But the thing I did love, as far as you're talking about the pre-snap stuff, is Tedford's offense. I always had the freedom to switch a run to a pass, or a pass to a run, or flip the direction of the run, or change the protection. So he gave the quarterback a lot of freedom as far as that goes, and without kind of boring you guys with the details and all the verbiage and all that kind of stuff, that's the one thing I noticed when I stopped playing this past year with kind of being delayed in COVID, is watching the game from kind of the stands. I was like, wow, this looks beautiful and like an art and looks super calm. But when you're on the field, it's like war, and it's loud and things are happening. Your mind's processing 100 things at once, and it's like, okay, I survived that play. Like, let's go to the next one. Let's see if we could win this chess match, So.
Right.
That was a big thing for me too, kind of watching it. It's just like, it just looks like little people moving around.
Like production standpoint of what they're putting out.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it just looks like a game, like little players moving around. But I mean, you get on the field and these guys are, obviously they're big, 6'5", 300-pound guys, and your pads clumping and thumping, and there's a lot of action going on.
So, dude, I got a question for you. I know your whole passion has been football your whole life. But the amazing thing to me is you didn't just stop with getting a bachelor's degree. You went on, got your master's, and got your education. Why? Why was that so important to you?
Yeah, I would 100% credit that to my parents and my mom and my dad. They were always very big. I know my dad had multiple opportunities to play at the next level in college, and
Really?
the grades were actually his number one thing that held him back. So he had ended up going to Wheatley College, played there for about 2 years, and then stopped playing after that. But he had opportunities, but grades were big. So I think he just wanted to kind of pay it forward, I guess, and ensure like, hey, you have to have don't make the same mistakes I made. Make sure you have grades and you're in place. And I remember my mom always saying that. Football is God's gift that He gave to you, and you have the ability to touch a lot of people, but He could also take it away at any moment. And I was fortunate enough that I didn't have to deal with any serious injuries as far as ACLs or shoulder surgeries or anything like that. So she did always say that education, you could always fall back on it. So that's kind of that reason.
So would you recommend that with young guys and girls going through whatever their dream is? I mean, you just pointed out you got, what was it, 800 or 1,000 guys there, and the reality check that only 3 or 4 or 5, whatever, are going to make it to that level. What do you say to all these other kids that are out there today in junior high, high school, and they got a dream, whatever that is?
Yeah.
You know, what do you do without putting down their dream or saying, "Oh man, nobody's ever going to make it." You're just the opposite. Why not me?
Right.
But does that go with some balance in there to say, okay, yeah, you push forward over here, but like your mom said, you got to have something backing it up. And like your dad said, you know, if you're even going to achieve at that level, you got to have the grades, or it's not going to work.
Yeah, no, it's a big thing. They let you know multiple times when you're in college that you're a student athlete, and they always emphasize the student comes first. And I mean, at the end of the day, you can't play unless you have grades. So if your grades aren't up to par, you're not going to play. And really just kind of speaking, obviously being from Dinuba, we're a smaller town. It's not a big just pumping out Division I factory all the time. And I had multiple opportunities I was kind of looking into it. I was going to transfer. I had a handful of buddies that were at Central who were kind of wanting me to transfer out. And it definitely crossed my mind because, I mean, those schools are pumping out talent every year. I mean, they get kids signing. It's a bigger talent pool, and I know that's something I ran into when I was playing at Dinuba. I was leading the state of California, and they're saying, oh, well, he's playing at a lower division. He's not playing against talent that's as good as these other kids. And I would say, especially specifically talking to any kids that are going to smaller schools, is you have to separate yourself, and grades are one of those ways. If you're 6'2", 180 pounds, and there's another kid that's 6'2", 180 pounds in Clovis, you have to swallow the pill. They're going to take that kid that's in Clovis because he's playing higher talent football. But at the end of the day, and when you get coaches coming, I think kind of behind the scenes, what a lot of people don't know is if I remember UCLA coming to visit me, Washington, Arizona, all these different schools. If they're on campus visiting you, they know you could play football. That's not why they're there. They're there to scoop up some dirt on you, figure out what kind of person you are. They were talking to my teachers, saying, does he sit in the front of class? Does he fall asleep? They're talking to my counselors. They're talking to – we did home visits with, I believe, Arizona, all the schools who offered me scholarships. They were talking to my younger sister, says, is he nice to you? Like, I mean, 1 year of out-of-state tuition at Oregon State was – right around $45,000. So I mean, they're investing money in you, so they're going to do everything they can to make sure they're making the right decision.
Man, I hope young guys, girls, parents are listening to this, because a lot of times when you're in high school, your biggest thing on your mind is, who am I going to the prom with, right? Or what are we going to do Friday night, right? And what's it going to look like out on the field? The last thing on your mind is the classroom and how you've treated people and the kind of character. You know, I always say this, your character cradles the gift. And if your character's messed up, then the gift is going to fall, and the gift isn't going to stand. So no matter how gifted a kid is, they got to have that character that cradles that. And I think it's helpful to know that these colleges, that's what's on their mind.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, they know you can play ball. They know you got the game, but what kind of person are you? And secondly, do you have the study habits?
Right.
Because that by the time you get to college, it's too late.
Yeah.
You either have it or you don't. And I would say that's got to go all the way back to, you know, foundational, late grade school, early junior high. And are you going to do your homework? Are you going to, you know, I mean, none of us as kids liked homework, you know.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I always tell people I credit it. I have a lot of friends. I had probably 3 or 4 solid friends that I hung out with in high school all the time, and I tell them to this day. Every couple months, I check in with them. If we haven't been talking, I'll just say I kind of thank them. I wouldn't have got to where I was. It's my friend Javier, Xavier, Mario, and they were super talented in high school, and they kind of knew that their kind of chances of playing at the next level weren't as high.
Mm-hmm.
But anytime I wanted to work out or I wanted to train, they were there with me. So if I went before practice, they were there. If I went after practice, if I wanted to throw on Saturdays, they were always there. If I wanted to lift weights, they were lifting weights with me. And they kind of knew what my goals and my desires were, because I had verbalized it to them and told them, hey, I want to play in college. And they're like, yeah, well, we're going to do everything to help you get there. Obviously, we want to try too as well. So, I mean, anytime a party came up or people were going out and doing different things, they kind of knew that they wouldn't even bring it up to me, or they would even, to the extent, protect me. Like, hey, don't be reaching out to Marcus, or don't be doing bad stuff around him. Like, we got certain things we want to do and accomplish. So they're almost kind of my guard.
Something higher than this, right?
They're kind of my guardian angels in a way, too, kind of protecting me, and almost kind of naive to a lot of things, honestly, that were happening in high school. I had no idea that people were even going out doing different things, just because I was so kind of goal-oriented and kind of surrounded with the right people that, I don't know, we played video games for fun, or we did just different stuff like that. So just really, I mean, show me your friends and I could kind of show you what your future is going to look like.
That's so good, dude. That, you know, that is something that, I mean, that'll preach in any pulpit in America. That is who you're going to hang out with. And what I'm hearing from you is you had great support at home. You had parents that understood you got a gift, but we have to make sure that we instill in you the education part of it, because you know, if anything happens or if it doesn't work out, what are you going to have? And then the right friends, that you had that choice.
Right.
That was all on you. Who are you going to hang out with? You know, I mean, your parents aren't there at school with you. So you made those choices. What do you think kind of went into your mind through that and into that decision about who are my friends going to be?
Yeah, I think it got more difficult as kind of the attention started flowing, because especially now looking back, I was a big fish in a small pond. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. I had a lot of attention, a lot of eyes on me, and a lot of people want to be your friend when you're at that point. And kind of, again, my parents, they were huge as far as support. I know my mom was the first one to pop my head if it ever got too big. So all the newspaper articles and write-ups and, oh, you're ranked this in the country, you're a top 15 quarterback, and yada, yada, yada. And my mom was always the first one to say, hey, when you're at the house, like, you're my son. Like, you're not this all-star football player. Like, go take the trash out, you know? So, so it was always kind of nice to kind of have that, and just kind of being humbled in the house and kind of really trying to carry that out. And it's been, I think it's just a little bit of luck, a little bit of blessing, a little divine intervention. I definitely wasn't kind of processing all this in the moment, and I think it was just a culmination of direction and guidance from different people I was kind of coming in contact with, and kind of just trying to absorb it all and take it. And I don't know, my best advice to people would be is find a mentor, someone who excels in what you're looking to improve on, and just kind of take them for all they're worth. And kind of, I know I've exceeded in different parts of my life, but I have friends that are way further than me spiritually, and I look to them for guidance in that. I have friends who, when I was playing football, Derek Carr has been a huge influence on my life. I would reach out to him as far as how to excel on the football field, and I kind of kept him in my corner, and just different people as far as just pulling me all sorts of directions. I never want to be the smartest one in the room. I love kind of being kind of the underdog and kind of just like, hey, I'm here surrounding these people, not just to take from them, but also be a giver at the same time. It's like I just want to just absorb and just learn as much as I can from every person in the room.
That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. So I got another question for you. You know, you just alluded to it. What part has your faith played in your journey?
It's been huge, and it's hard to pinpoint an exact situation. I think when my journey was almost, or my faith was tested the most, was definitely when I was at Oregon State, just because that was probably one of my lowest times when I was at Oregon State, and kind of, I mean, you're riding high, you just got there, everything's going good, but my redshirt freshman year, there was actually, it's kind of unheard of, there were 7 quarterbacks, and we didn't know who the starter was. So
Wow.
you're getting one rep probably every like 30 minutes, and it's like you better hope you don't throw a pick or mess up or do something because you're not going to go back in after. And then kind of just the transferring process, it was just kind of, and then being out there by yourself, we kind of talked about isolation as far as just being, my family would come visit, but it's not during season, so they're not up every other week, so that's difficult, kind of just processing things on yourself, and you don't want to put too much of a burden on your family at home. You want them to kind of think or know that you're doing okay and you're doing well. So I think that was huge, and something that played a huge part for me in my faith was I kind of put things off sometimes. I'm a very laid back guy as far as just going with the flow of things. My leaving the dorms after my freshman year, I didn't have any roommates, and we're about to get kicked out. We're getting evicted basically from the dorms. Like, hey, you have like 3 days. You're getting kicked out. You're done with your freshman year. You should have a house by now. Well, I didn't have a house. But there was about 4 other roommates that were in the super laid back guys like me. Like, hey man, like we don't have anywhere to live either. You want to just live together? We're all on the football team though, so we all knew each other.
Right.
Like, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll live with you guys. I didn't talk to them a ton. We kind of knew each other.
Not a lot of choices.
Yeah, not a lot of choices
Right.
though. It's kind of like, yeah, I'll live with you. And all those guys ended up being super down to earth, faith based, strong Christian guys. And I always tell people, I mean, it's 100% just God's divine intervention, because that's nothing that I could have coordinated on myself. And
Right.
anytime I was kind of going astray, those guys like, hey man, let's go to church on Sunday, or hey, let's get a Bible study going during the week. And that was just huge as far as, and that's just always coming back to where I want to take credit for everything I've done and say, hey, I'm Superman. I've done this. I've accomplished this. But it's 100% the people that have been surrounding me and kind of pushing me. Anytime I fell back, they were there to lift me up.
You know, it's funny. The older I get, the more I have the opportunity to look back and to see all those places in my life that at the time I had no idea how much
Right.
God was stepping onto the scene
Yeah.
to set me up for my next season and what was next in my life. And I remember those times where, I mean, today's about you, so I won't go there, but I can remember those times in my life where I'm like, God, are you anywhere? What in the world is going
Yeah.
on? Everything is crazy all around me. And it's only in your rearview mirror that you can look back
Yeah.
and you can go, wow, I am so glad I went right and not left. I'm so glad that I waited, that I what I thought God was withholding from me, he was actually withholding it for me, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And there's so much to that. And I look at your life and I say, man, number one, it's a great example to young people and kids and teenagers right now that are in school, but it's also a great testimony of how the Lord has led and guided you. The Bible says the steps of a good man are ordered of the Lord. And so it's God's way of saying, I got this. If
Yeah.
you'll just follow me and acknowledge me in all of your ways, then I'll lead you, I'll guide you, and I'll protect you. Even if it's
Yeah.
even if it looks like, man, I got no place to go, I'm going to be homeless here in about 3 days.
Right.
That stuff doesn't just happen, that
Yeah.
it's the right guys. Normally, that could be a pretty bad situation, a whole bunch of guys that got no idea what they're going to do. That's not usually a good crowd to hang with, but God opened that door for you, man, and strengthen you in a foreign state, something that was totally away from everybody else and family and direction, and surrounded you with the right people. That's so cool. God's divine intervention, man.
No, 100%. I think just something that I've been kind of wrapping my head around lately too, and you hear it a lot, but it's hard to kind of actually really let it digest. I've heard a lot of people say, like, let go and let God, and it's like, okay, yeah, you're going to sit back and let God do it, but then at the same time, it's kind of, okay, well, faith, you have to put the good work and the measure behind it. So it's like faith without work, you got to do the work as well. So it's like, we're going to pray to God, I'm going to ask for it, but I'm almost asking with an expectation that it's going to equate, and all the work I'm putting in is I'm expecting from God. It's almost, I'm praying to him for it, and I'm hoping, but it's a confident pray to God that I know how strong he is and how diligent he is and faithful he is to us, that I'm gonna do my part, and I know he's gonna take care of the rest. And it took me a really, really long time to get to that point, because I was always like, I'm doing this, why isn't it happening right now, right this minute? I need it now. And it just takes a load off, and just being able to enjoy kind of just the day to day. And I think really what got me to the point as well is I found a way to fall in love with the process of things, no matter what it was, as far as, I mean, you're talking faith, school, whatever the case was, just kind of falling in love with the day-to-day basis. And I mean, the results are inevitable. It's going to happen if you just kind of start falling in love with the process of it.
Well, I'm blown away at not only your journey, but where you're at right now. And I'm excited for you guys. I'm excited for your future, this new endeavor, this dream in your heart. And I commend you, because it's all about giving back. It's all about helping young people get on track, stay on track, realizing, discovering, that there's something in them. Why not me? Why not me?
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And I just got a feeling that as the next few months and years begin to unfold, you're going to look more and more, and you're going to find more and more, Marcus, that everything that's happened in your life has been a season of preparation for this. You're going to use stuff that in this new endeavor and new endeavors in your life, that only when you get there will you realize, oh, wow, they didn't teach that in a classroom. I learned that in life. And the hard work, the dedication, the study, the determination, the focus, the getting my friends right and my family right, and everything being in order in my life and balance. That stuff really, really plays into any success we have. And it may not be out on a field, and who knows, maybe someday it will again. But whatever it is, I know God's got you, man. And this is going to be a great, great new endeavor and new journey. It's exciting, good stuff happening. I'm glad that we got to chat today and just kind of catch up and see what's going on with you. I know a lot of people are wondering, kind of what's next, and so they heard it first here.
Yeah.
I know we're kind of wrapping up here, but I do have one more question for you.
Yeah.
Obviously we grew up in the same town, went to school together and stuff. So I kind of understand where you're coming from whenever you have that small town feel, and you're kind of like, well, why not me? Those that are driven obviously are going to have that emotion to challenges and stuff, where you kind of come from an area that doesn't have a whole lot, and there's not a whole lot going for people in the area that we grew up. Let's just be honest. So, that you have to have that mentality if you want to go further. But what do you feel like having the support of your parents and everything? How do you feel that that's gonna play as a new parent? Like, do you, obviously, inevitably, as we grow up and stuff, we get frustrated with our parents because rules and restrictions, and you don't want to do what they're saying because you don't feel that they know best at all times. But you know, how do you
never
feel
did
that's
that.
No, not at all. Absolutely, I was a good kid. I always listened. But how do you feel that that's going to play, like being a new parent? Was it kind of eye opening of like, oh shoot, I really don't know anything.
Yeah.
Now you're looking to your parents even more than ever.
Yeah, me and my wife were actually just talking about that, and it's funny because I feel like growing up, you look at your parents to where almost like, oh, they know everything. You know, it's like, oh, I just got to ask my parent, I got to ask my mom or dad, and they're going to know the answer. And then me and Chelsea were just kind of talking the other day. It's like, man, we just had Malachi. I'm 25, and we're both young still. It's like, we looked at each other like, I don't really know how to do this. Like,
How do I do?
like they don't.
Is there no manual that comes with this kid?
We just said that. We're like, man, you go to the hospital. The whole pregnancy is fun. It's exciting. You're taking pictures.
Oh, yeah.
And you have the baby, and then they're kind of like, all right, you guys could go. And it's like, you're just like, well, what do we do now? And they're like, oh,
That's it.
that's it.
Go home now.
Yeah,
What do I do after 2 a.m. when the baby's
Exactly.
crying? Right?
Yeah.
It's like they don't give you a manual, and there's no manual for it, and it's, I don't know, I love it. And you're kind of just figuring out as you go, and just kind of even more so now leaning on our parents to ask questions and call them, and is this normal? Is this not normal? And it makes me excited though to be a parent to where I think I'm gonna have kind of the attitude where it's like, hey, if I don't know the answer, I mean, hey, you have a book, go read it, go figure it out, or go learn something. If I don't know it, I could find it. And me and Chelsea were jokingly saying, it's like, man, credit to our parents, they raised us without Google. I mean, we're on Google all the time, like looking stuff up, like, is this normal? Is this normal? So yeah, man, I'm just excited about it, and it's a blessing to obviously have a healthy kid come out, and just I'm excited to see. I mean, whether it's sports or whatever his thing, just kind of find out what his passions are and just do everything I can as a parent to support him.
That's awesome. Well, Marcus, thanks for joining me today. I enjoyed it, and till next time.
Yeah, appreciate it.